I'm Beth Eberhard. I'm one of the instructors at the Ruth Patrick Science Education Center, and one of my favorite places to teach is here at Silver Bluff Audubon in Jackson, South Carolina. When I was a kid, I hated pine trees. They were no good for anything. You can't climb them, full of sticky sap. Pine needles and pine cones hurt under your feet. But as I learned more about this tree and their ecosystem, I started to appreciate them a little bit more, as I hope you will, as we learn more about this longleaf pine ecosystem and the relationship between the plants and animals that live here. Look around you at this beautiful longleaf pine ecosystem. Hear the wind in the trees. Hear the birds singing. Look at the sunlight dappling the forest floor. And breathe in the beauty of this ecosystem that is being restored to its natural state here at Silver Bluff Audubon. Long ago, the longleaf pine ecosystem covered much of the southeastern United States, starting from Virginia all the way to eastern Texas. Today, only 3% of that natural ecosystem remains, and with it is threatened many of the plant and animal species that depend upon it. Come with me on the Nuthatch Trail as we learn about the relationship between the soil, the plant and animals that live here, and the human activity that has taken place, and find out how we here at Silver Bluff Audubon are maintaining and restoring this ecosystem to its natural state. It all starts with the soil. We are in the sandhill regions of South Carolina. That region, that belt that extends across the Midlands of South Carolina of ancient sand dunes that indicated that this used to be beachfront property. Now here in our soil pit area, you can see what's actually beneath our feet. You'll see over here a very thin layer of topsoil, followed by about 6 inches of sandy soil with a little bit of nutrient value, and then below that several feet of very large grained sand, and below that a layer of kaolin clay. Because of this well-drained soil, a dry, fire-dependent ecosystem has developed. Wildfires would strike through here, burning all the underbrush and keeping the hardwoods down, leaving this grassy understory until they reached a wet area and the fires would extinguish. But as more and more people came to this area, those wildfires were suppressed. Take a look at the soot at the base of this tree. This soot, along with the open grassy forest floor and the open canopy, are all indicators that fire is once again being used to maintain this longleaf pine ecosystem in its natural state. Here at Silver Bluff Audubon, they use a management tool called prescribed fires. Just as a doctor prescribes medicine to keep you healthy, so too does each fire have a prescription, that is, a plan to keep and maintain the health of this natural ecosystem. Take a look at this tree with the thick bands painted around the trunk. This tree and 4 others like it here at Silver Bluff Audubon have artificial nest cavities installed in them to jumpstart a population of red-cockaded woodpeckers, which are a federally endangered species. With very little of the historic longleaf ecosystem remaining, the red-cockaded woodpecker, or RCW, is suffering from habitat loss. Considered a keystone species because their nest cavities are used by a rich diversity of species, only 1% of their original population remains. The RCW needs an open pine forest maintained by frequent fires. There, it can take up to 6 years to excavate its cavity in mature pines with a core softened by red heart fungus. That's why Silver Bluff Audubon is restoring longleaf habitat and installing artificial cavities in the hopes of attracting nearby RCWs from SRS or from Hitchcock Woods who are looking for a home. It's all part of the plan, restoring natural ecosystems to help struggling species survive and thrive. Here's a special feature found in the middle of our dry pine woods. In front of us is a bowl-like depression in the ground called a Carolina Bay. Called bays due to the variety of bay trees that grow around them, these geologic formations are found all the way up and down the Atlantic coast. Although their origins are uncertain, with theories ranging from meteorite strikes to ocean currents and even dinosaur wallows, their physical characteristics are strikingly similar. From a bird's eye view, Carolina bays are seen to be oval-shaped, shallow, and aligned northwest to southeast. Their soil structure is always different from the surrounding areas, often with a sand rim around their edges. They can range in size from 1 acre to thousands of acres. Right now, this bay is filled with water, but during the dry season, there's very little water in it at all. But you can still tell that it's a bay because it has cypress knees and there's flared bases to the tree trunks. These Carolina bays are valuable islands of wetlands in the middle of the dry forest, and they house a rich diversity of wetland species, including rare plants, amphibians, and reptiles. Although a much different ecosystem from the longleaf forest behind us, it too is being managed to maintain its natural features and the many species that depend upon it for habitat. If you're ever here on the Nuthatch Trail, take time to sit a while and observe the life around you. Listen for the squeaky toy call of the brown-headed nuthatch as it climbs headfirst down their tree trunks. Watch the pine warblers flit among the trees. And if you're lucky, you might even see a fox squirrel, a covey of quail, maybe even a wild turkey or two. And think about the animals that used to flourish in this longleaf pine ecosystem. Species that are now endangered, such as the red-cockaded woodpecker, and the threatened Bachman sparrow, the indigo snake, and the gopher tortoise. Ecologists have found more than 100 species of animals that depend on the gopher tortoise and the burrows they dig, making the gopher tortoise another keystone species of the longleaf pine forest. The biodiversity of this ecosystem is as rich as that of tropical rainforests. Take a look at this open area surrounded by mature longleaf pines. This area right here, where longleaf pines have died, they've been knocked over by storms or died of a natural death, provides an opportunity for new growth as young seedlings find room and resources to start their life. Take a look down here by my feet. Here's a longleaf pine seedling. Looks like a clump of grass. This one was planted as a plug about a year ago. But before long, this forest will have natural regeneration, as these longleaf pine seedlings find plenty of space and a lack of competition, plenty of resources in which to grow naturally. this oak tree to fall? Well, let's get to the root of the matter. If you'll notice, this oak tree has strong lateral roots that go side to side, unlike our longleaf pine that has a thick, long taproot that reaches deep into the sandy soil. When fire sweeps through, these lateral roots can't hold on to the sandy soil. And then when a windstorm comes by, it falls over. This species, this oak, is not very fire tolerant, as our longleaf pines are. By maintaining a longleaf pine forest, we are promoting a resilient forest, one that can withstand all the things that nature throws at it. Look around for the pine snags, those dead trees still standing. Decomposers like beetles, termites, and other invertebrates feed on the wood, in turn providing a feast for woodpeckers and other birds. Cavity nesters such as woodpeckers, owls, bluebirds, and flying squirrels make their homes in these snags. When the tree finally falls, it becomes home to other species such as snakes and lizards. And finally, the decomposed wood returns its nutrients to the soil. Nature is the ultimate recycler. Let's talk a little bit about the life cycle of the longleaf pine. In the fall, these pine cones open up and the seedlings helicopter out and fall to the forest floor and start to germinate. Within a year or so, it becomes what we call the grass stage. At this stage, the growing tip is surrounded by a thick cluster of very fire-resistant needles, causing it to be very tolerant of fire. After a few years of putting down a thick, long taproot, it shoots up rapidly to what we call the bottle brush or the rocket stage. At this stage, the growing tip is pretty much high enough that it's away from the fires that might come through. And after a few more years, it becomes a sapling where it has branches and the growing tips are now completely fire resistant. In about 30 years, the longleaf pine is now a mature tree in which it will start to produce pine cones and completing the cycle. The longleaf pine is the longest living of the pine trees. It can live 250, even up to 500 years old, they think. And as it gets over 100 years, it's often infected with what's called the red heart fungus, which causes the inside, the heart of the tree, to soften. And that makes it very useful for the red-cockaded woodpecker as it's excavating its cavity. Under the towering pines, a rich diversity of plant species takes root. A variety of bunch grasses such as broom sedge, bluestem, and wiregrass provide not only fast-burning fuel for the cleansing fires, but also cover for ground nesters such as the Bachman sparrow. Grass seeds and legumes become food for animals. Bobwhite quail take shelter in the low shrubs. And every autumn, nature puts on a show with a shaggy carpet of goldenrod blazing in the warm sun. Some 300 plants are native to these piney woods. In a healthy, fire-maintained longleaf ecosystem, there can be up to 50 different kinds of plants per square meter, providing food and habitat for many animal species. Now that's a true grassroots effort worth restoring. Thank you for joining us today as we walk the Nuthatch Trail here at Silver Bluff Audubon. This trail and 2 others are currently open for bird watchers, nature lovers, and hikers. Come out and enjoy this special place, this sanctuary called Silver Bluff Audubon.